reportedly going to be aggressive pursuing a trade for him this offseason. Watson does have a no-trade clause in his contract, so he would have to agree to be moved there, which is something everyone needs to keep in mind when having these Deshaun Watson conversations. It's really where Deshaun wants to go. And obviously, neither one of us, I think, believe this, but there is a chance he stays in Houston as well. I think it's very slim at this point, but he has to agree on where he goes. Now, we talked earlier about what teams could use Deshaun Watson and essentially narrowed it down to every team, in my opinion, except for the Chiefs, Packers, and Seahawks. So that's pretty much everybody. Yep. You would disagree with the Packers in that situation, but, Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. Now,
basically everybody.
Basically everybody. Now, what everyone's getting caught up here is the contract situation. So he agreed to a 4-year, $156 million contract extension through the 2025 season, September of 2020. The annual salary is $30 million a year. It's the second highest, only behind Mahomes. But to your point earlier, because the Texans already paid the $27 million signing bonus last year, the average cost for his contract would be $29.3 million per year for any team that trades for him. They'd be on the hook for $10.54 million in 2021, 35 in 2022, 37 and 32 in 2024 and 2025. I know that threw a lot of numbers at you right there, but basically $30 million a year is the average, which is extremely reasonable for someone of Deshaun Watson's caliber.
Absolutely. And listen, I know that the Texans just had a press conference and they said they don't want to trade him. They have no plans on trading him. But the no trade clause part of this is intriguing because it's not only that he can veto any trade, but Kevin Wildes brought this up on the show this morning, and it was like a galaxy brain take, but it's an interesting one. Let's say that your Miami Dolphins want to trade for him. We know that's on his list. And the Texans come to him like, we've worked out a trade with Miami. And he says, oh, okay, what's the trade? And they're like, well, Miami's going to give us Tua and 3 first-round picks. What if Deshaun says, no, 2 first-round picks. I want my team to be good. And if you guys don't do that, then I'll just veto it. Like, he could negotiate down the price because he can veto anything. And so that'd be a dangerous game to play.
Yeah.
But he has the no trade clause is such massive leverage. But the flip side is he's the one wanting to be traded.
Exactly.
So it's like a weird spot where he wants to be traded, but he can veto a trade. So I don't know exactly how that plays out. But it's a really interesting dynamic that we've never quite seen before.
Yeah, I don't anticipate it will get that nuanced, but I also am pretty firmly in the camp that I don't really care about hoarding up draft picks. I understand the value of them, especially in trades, but I am way more in on a known commodity over a very much unknown in a draft pick. The draft is a crapshoot. 50-50, this is going to be a starter or even a player that's going to be on your team for multiple years. So I need all of the draft picks. No, I can't give you another draft. You're never going to get enough value.
The whole point of the draft is to get Deshaun.
Right. You're never going to get value.
The whole point of the draft is to get a guy like Deshaun.
You're never going to get value for Deshaun Watson.
Correct.
So if you give him 15 first-round picks, the Texans will be lucky to get Deshaun Watson again. Yeah. So there's I don't see it getting that complicated. All right, this story drives me crazy. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni is stepping into a complicated situation in Philadelphia at the quarterback position, obviously. Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts both on the roster. But he is unconcerned about the position that the team is in with their 2 quarterbacks.
Feel great. I mean, you look at a lot of rosters and they don't have any quarterbacks, right, that they feel really good about. Well, we have 2. That's unbelievable to be able to have 2 quarterbacks that have played and that have played well. And so super excited to be able to work with them because obviously we all know how important that position is to a football team.
Nick, our friend and mentor and my co-host, Colin Cowherd, who is out today, does a lot of theories and comparisons to real life when it comes to sports analogies, right? And I was thinking about this very hard this morning because for some reason I have a real obsession with this Philadelphia Eagles quarterback situation. Don't ask me why. Here's the thing. I always say this about quarterbacks. If you have more than one quarterback, you don't have a quarterback. So what Nick Sirianni is saying here may sound nice to fans and to the organization, but in reality, it's utter nonsense. If you have more than one girlfriend, you in fact have no girlfriends. You're pretty much single, right? Now, if you're single, you have all the options in the world. Do you know who's single? The Jacksonville Jaguars are single. The New York Jets are single. In some ways, the Miami Dolphins at the number 3 pick are single with some draft capital as well. The Philadelphia Eagles
considering a trial separation.
Yes.
The Dolphins are considering a trial separation.
Yes.
They're like, what are the annulment laws in Florida? We made a commitment, but we're not sure about it. I don't know. All right, go ahead.
Totally available. The situation in Philadelphia is not a good situation. You know who doesn't have a quarterback battle? The Kansas City Chiefs. Not me, but some people thought the Green Bay Packers were going to have a quarterback battle this year. Not so. The Seahawks don't have a quarterback battle. If you're going into camp trying to figure out who your quarterback is, that means neither one of these guys are really actually that good. Now, I don't believe that, but that's why this is a problem in Philadelphia. I thought they should have moved off of Carson Wentz and gone with Jalen Hurts. Trade him, get value. The situation there to me is not going to work, and I anticipate a disastrous season for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, so here's the problem. I get Sirianni, even if he loves Jalen, and they've decided internally we're going to move off Wentz. You want to keep his value somewhat stable, him being Wentz, to trade him. I get that. But a lot of what they've done since they moved to Hurts has been at Hurts's expense. The expense of his confidence, the expense of his belief that he is going to be the franchise quarterback. And if you're doing all that because you want to make sure you can get a 4th-round pick instead of a 6th-round pick for Carson Wentz, at some point you got to ask yourself, is that even worth it? And I agree with you, Joy. Carson Wentz is not going to work in Finn, but it broke there for him. If they don't recognize that this offseason, then all that means is a year from now, all that dead money stuff we've talked about with Wentz is going to come up then. Because you got to rip the Band-Aid off at some point, trade him to the Colts, get nothing in return, but move off him. Just do that. I agree with you. And I don't even know if Hurts is a great player or not. But I know Wentz isn't going to work there.
Absolutely.
I know it. What else we got?
Finally, Ben Roethlisberger, speaking of ripping the Band-Aid off, $41 million cap hit next season. You guys are freaking out about Deshaun Watson's $30 million. Ben Roethlisberger, $41 million cap hit.
$41 million.
Steelers owner Art Rooney said the team has left the door open for him to return with the revised contract, and Big Ben seems to be okay with that. He said, I want to do everything I can, and made that very clear to them from the very beginning that it was my idea to basically help the team however I can this year. I don't care about my pay at all this year. I gotta be honest, I do not believe this at face value. That's fine if you're talking about renegotiating and putting some money on the back ends, but I don't see Ben Roethlisberger leaving $20 million cash on the table, nor actually would I recommend he do that, even though I think that the Ben Roethlisberger era in Pittsburgh should be over. I'm ready to move on. I'm a little more cold-hearted than most Pittsburgh fans, but I just watched a disaster. And Ben has been talking about retiring for 3 or 4 or 5 years now. And I think the Super Bowl window is completely shut on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The AFC North is the most competitive division in football. I have 3 teams from the AFC North in the playoffs this year. You can't trot Ben Roethlisberger out there again. You need to move into the future. But I think they're going to renegotiate and move this around and be stuck with Ben for another couple years.
Well, so that's the question. The question is he willing to take a pay cut, or is he just willing to move money around? If he's due a $15 million roster bonus in the middle of March that is not guaranteed. If they cut him, that $41 million cap hit goes to $22 million. If he is willing to not add years to his deal, simply rewrite the contract to where that roster bonus is gone, and he just has the $4 million in base salary, that's one thing. But if he's just going to add years to the deal so the Pittsburgh Steelers have to deal with the pain of this after he's retired, I don't know that I'd want to sign up for that if I were Pittsburgh. So I think that it is a tenuous situation for a franchise that really does value loyalty and what you've earned and legacy and all that stuff. But, and Ben knows they don't have a great answer in-house. But right now, you'd have to think, Joy, you could go into next year with the worst quarterback in that division. And that's not a position any team wants to be in, right? And I mean, so I think that's the spot they find themselves in. There's Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Coming up next, Tony Romo with a great take. Why do I think it's a great take? Because it's my take. We'll discuss that from the great Tony Romo next. Nick Wright in for Colin on the Herd. But it broke there for him. If they don't recognize that this offseason, then all that means is a year from now, all that dead money stuff we've talked about with Wentz is going to come up then. Because you got to rip the Band-Aid off at some point, trade him to the Colts, get nothing in return, but move off him. Just do that. I agree with you. And I don't even know if Hurts is a great player or not. But I know Wentz isn't going to work there.
Absolutely.
I know it. What else do we got?
Finally, Ben Roethlisberger, speaking